Today, we're diving into a really radical theory, one that reframes a cultural conflict that's thousands of years old. The argument is this: the real battle isn't about land or even God. It's actually rooted in two profoundly different ways of constructing reality itself.
So what if we're not just looking at a clash of beliefs, but a clash of, well, two competing psychic operating systems? One of them is built to embrace an empty center, while the other is designed to fill that center with a dazzling spectacle. Now, to really get this idea, we're going to need a quick toolkit first.
And that toolkit comes to us from the psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan. He had this idea that our sense of reality is built through three interwoven layers, or as he called them, registers.
Okay, first up is what he called the imaginary. This is the world of the ego, of images, of identity. You know that feeling when you look in the mirror and think, yep, that's me, a whole, complete person? That's the imaginary. It's all driven by our desire for wholeness and to be recognized.
Then there's the symbolic. This is the world of language, of laws, all the social structures that we're just born into. But here's the key thing. Unlike the imaginary's feeling of wholeness, the symbolic works through difference. Think about it. The word tree only has meaning because it's not a sky or a rock. This whole system is always built around a central gap, the fact that words can point to things but they can never fully be the thing itself.
And finally, we have the real. And you've got to be careful here. This isn't reality as we usually think of it. No, the real is the raw, chaotic, unspeakable stuff that lies underneath everything. It's the trauma that our minds just can't process or put into words. You can almost think of the imaginary and the symbolic as this safety net we've built over this terrifying void.
Okay, so with that toolkit in hand, let's take a look at the first psychic operating system this theory lays out. It describes a civilization built almost entirely on that symbolic order, what it calls an architecture of the void. So how does a system like this actually work? Well, the source points to a few key mechanisms. You've got the Hebrew script itself, which forces you to actively interpret, not just passively look. You have Jewish law, the halacha, which creates a sort of fence of words and rules around every single part of life. And then, of course, you have the big one, the second commandment, a total ban on making any divine image, a powerful, absolute rejection of the imaginary.
The theory traces this entire system back to a single, foundational trauma. The revelation that Sinai is framed not as some peaceful event, but as a terrifying, overwhelming encounter with the real. And the people, they just can't handle it. They literally flee from this terror and demand a comforting image, the golden calf, which is a pure regression back into the imaginary. So Moses' crucial move here is shattering those first tablets, that raw, unbearable real, and replacing them with a symbolic system, the second tablets, which are built around the memory of that trauma.
And this part is absolutely crucial. The system doesn't try to forget the void or pretend it isn't there. No. Instead, it takes the shattered pieces from that traumatic moment and places them right at the very heart of the entire culture, inside the Ark of the Covenant. The law is literally constructed to contain the trauma.
This whole principle then finds its ultimate physical form in the architecture of the temple itself. At its very center, you had the Holy of Holies, a space that was, by design, completely empty. It was a structured void, a way of preventing any image from ever filling that central organizing lack.
All right, so now let's flip to the other side. We're going to look at the opposing system, and it is the polar opposite, a civilization founded on the power of the visible image, what the theory calls the civilization of the spectacle.
And wow, the contrast is just stark. In the Roman worldview, power had to be seen. You had military triumphs, legions marching, the emperor as a god. Religion was a pantheon of statues and images. The center absolutely had to be filled with spectacle. But for the Jewish system, power was abstract. Religion was a covenant made of words, and the center had to be empty. This made the entire system just fundamentally indigestible to the Roman ego.
Now, into this clash, the theory argues that Christianity offered an incredibly powerful synthesis. The resurrection is presented as the ultimate imaginary event. I mean, think about it. It's a story about a visible, tangible body that conquers the most terrifying aspect of the real there is, death itself. It offers this fantasy of completely defeating the void, not just holding it at bay.
So what happens when these two fundamentally incompatible operating systems smash into each other? Well, according to this theory, it creates a structural conflict that's pretty much unavoidable. This table right here, this really distills the entire argument. On every single level, these systems are total opposites. Central principle, it's the word versus the image. The deity, a void versus an image. The source of authority, textual law versus visible power. And this is the big one, the relationship to the traumatic real. One is about containment of the void. The other is about the conquest of the void, which means the primary sin in one is idolatry, submitting to an image, and in the other it's heresy, refusing the central image.
This structural clash then gives us a pretty powerful psychoanalytic lens for trying to understand the sheer persistence of anti-Semitism.
To get there, we need just one more concept, the abject. The theorist Julia Kristeva puts it this way: the abject is the stuff we violently throw out of ourselves to create a clean, stable identity, but it's always threatening to come back. It's the thing that just messes with our sense of order because it doesn't respect our neat little borders.
So here's how the theory connects all the dots. 1. The Western system of the spectacle is built on denying, on repressing that traumatic void. 2. The Jewish system, by placing that same void right at its center, becomes a constant structural reminder of that thing that was repressed. 3. Because of this, the figure of the Jew becomes the abject, the thing that has to be cast out to preserve the West's fantasy of its own wholeness. And the result? It's not just hatred, it's a deep existential terror.
And, this framework really helps explain why anti-Semitic tropes are so often completely contradictory. The Jew as both the ultimate capitalist and the ultimate communist, insular and cosmopolitan. According to this theory, the specific content doesn't really matter, because the figure of the Jew just becomes a blank screen for a culture to project everything it fears and rejects in itself.
So to kind of wrap this all up, the source material isn't presenting this as a problem that can be easily solved. It's framing it as a deep, enduring split in the very way we construct reality.
The key takeaway really is this: the conflict isn't just about competing beliefs or different ideas. It's a fundamental, structural schism between an architecture of the void and a civilization of the spectacle. It's a clash of psychic hardware, not just the software running on it.
And that leaves us with a final thought to take with us. This theory describes an ancient split, but man, does it feel incredibly modern. So where do you see this conflict playing out today? This tension between abstract rules and powerful media images, between complex systems and simple, captivating stories. It's a lens that, once you start looking through it, kind of changes how you see the world.